Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. Welcome back to some of you. Got a quick review on the Orcair brand 4500 PSI box compressor that are available on Amazon. I'll drop the links below for you guys. I actually have found that these are pretty good. This is my second one. I bought in January 2021, I bought what I'll call the first gen, which is slightly different than this. So I was glad to see a couple of little product improvements here. But basically, if you are looking for a cost-effective compressor that is definitely portable, this is probably the way to go. On top of that, the seller is super responsive too. Like after a year and a half, so the warranty is 1 year on these. After a year and a half, my power supply went out from extensive use, and I contacted the seller, and they immediately sent me another power supply after my warranty was expired, which was super nice. So thank you, Orcair. That was a super generous move. Also, what you should know is if you buy one of these off Amazon, yes, you're covered by the 1 year warranty from the seller, but if you pay $34 for a 3-year warranty or $44.95 for a 4-year warranty, you'll be completely at peace with whatever happens to this thing because you're completely covered. So with the price point being so low at about $250 for these, to me, I consider it a disposable compressor. I use my compressors multiple times a week. Like I'm shooting every couple of days, I'm filling tanks all the time, I'm tinkering, testing, having to fill tanks all the time. So I use mine extensively, and the last one that I had is still going strong with the new power supply. So if you get about a year or two out of that type of use, that extensive use, I think you're getting your money's worth. Just think about how many times you'd have to go to the scuba shop to get your tank filled and probably pay $5 or $10 each time. So with this, it lets you be self-sufficient. So we will take a look at this. I'll compare it here in a minute to my old one, but you're probably wondering, okay, so you have the compressor here. Well, what all does it come with? Well, I'm going to show you. All right. So obviously, you're going to get a fill whip with it, standard Foster 8mm type connections on it, so that'll go to pretty much any fill nipple or fill probe that you have for your air guns. Additionally, it's going to come with the power cables for running it straight off of a 12-volt car battery. Now, it is recommended leave the car running when you do this so you don't just drain your battery. That'll plug in right here, and then also it comes with a home adapter. So this has a switch on it actually for 110 volt or 220. So you can do both with this simple unit, and it just basically converts your AC into 12 volt DC, plugs right into there, and you're good to go. It also comes with a manual, which is pretty decently descriptive and illustrated. So that's pretty cool. And then it does come with a couple of filters for the little inline oil water separator that's in there, and then 2 O-rings for the sides on it. So if you want to rebuild that, you can. And then it does come with a pretty small little rebuild kit. The 2 big O-rings, which are kind of an odd size, that go on the ends of the cylinder. And then it has a dead end plug for testing, and then also an adapter that I think goes to like car tire valves, even though I think it's a little overkill to be filling tires with a 4500 PSI compressor. But there you have it. That's all the stuff that it comes with. And let's take a look at putting this thing up against my, what I'm calling a Gen 1 Orcair compressor. We'll take a look at the little differences, and then we'll go ahead and fill my Maverick up, which I think is sitting at about 225 bar. We'll get it up to 250 with this thing so you can kind of hear it run and see how it works. So yeah, let's move on to that. Alright, so there are both compressors, the new Orcair on the left and the one I got in 2021 on the right. And along with the carrying cases, which are, I get a lot of questions about those. Those are very sought after. After I did my first review, those sold out everywhere. So I had posted the link for the ones on Amazon, and they're gone. And sometimes you can find them on eBay. I did find the blue or teal one on eBay. Just search Makita Cube bag or Makita 10-inch bag or Makita lithium ion bag. You still might be able to find those, and they are perfect for the compressor. So I just cut up the foam that came with the compressor, and so that holds my power supply, and then under it I've got a perfect slot there for the compressor itself. So pretty cool. So now let's look at these real quick. If I put them side by side, the new one is slightly smaller than the old one. Everything else is more or less the same. If I can look in the vents, we see some nicely machined pieces on the compressor itself. It looks like there's maybe some heat shrinking wrap or something on this one, so I don't know if they improved the internals a little bit there. But the other difference that I noticed is the one on the right is like just a black, and then this one's kind of a tactical gray for the new one, which is pretty cool. And the other change is, if you see the LED temp display here, this one is like the typical red LED, and it's in Celsius. This one has a blue backlit display, and it's actually in Fahrenheit. So let me take a second here. I'll plug both these in. You can see what those look like when they're on. All right, so that is very bright for my phone. Not sure I'm going to be able to show it. There we go. So 72.8 F. Now you'll notice that these are both plugged in. However, that one doesn't come on until you actually flip the fan switch. So these compressors have two switches. Always run the fan if you're running the compressor. So that's the fan switch, and then that's the actual pump compressor motor switch. But if I turn the fan on, so that's in Celsius. So kind of a nice touch that they did there for their American market. I like the blue backlit, very cool looking. But that's basically it. Very, very slight changes, just a little bit smaller unit. You got a different paint, possibly some upgraded internals, and a different temp gauge on it. Everything else seems the same. Oh, also, they don't come with these. These are oil water separators. They've got a little filter inside. I find that these work really well. They've got quite a few filters inside, and then they collect a lot of water. So once I'm done filling, I'll unscrew this, and I'll actually just put the components in the filter right over this vent, because it's venting heat from the compressor out, and it'll dry out those filters again. So definitely recommend getting these. You can get them for about 15 bucks on Amazon. I'll leave a link for those as well. So now that we've taken a look at the compressor, let's actually use it and fill up the Maverick and see how it sounds when it's running and how quickly it can fill. So one other thing to note here, it is room temperature in here, and I don't keep it freezing, so I would say that that gauge is accurate. Also, very important, with any of these kind of compressors, from these to the GX pumps, all of the different smaller compressors, you must never ever start it up with pressure. So let's say you're letting it cool off after you've run it for 10 minutes or so, and you need to continue filling after that. Vent your pressure, then let it all vent, then seal it back up, and then start again from zero. If you start these things up against pressure, you are putting a ton of pressure on your motor and on the pump, and you are probably going to put major wear and tear on your parts, including possibly just burning up the pump. I've seen it happen before with other brands. So with that said, let's take a look. Gauge on the Maverick looks like it's right about 215. So we'll fill that up to 250 and see how long it takes here. All right, before we get started, notice that I've put the power supply on its side, and that thing has an internal fan in it. So the reason I did that is because there's vents in the back. I don't want the vents laying flat, blocking them on the ground. I want them as open as possible to just get longevity out of that part and let the cooling do the best it can. So with that said, let's get started. First things first. Turn the fan on.
A few moments later.
Okay, so that took approximately 4 minutes. Got up to 133 or so F, and that's how I put my components from the oil water separator to dry them out while the pump cools. Okay, so that has cooled down sufficiently enough to cut the fan so you can actually hear me speak. You can see there I disassembled the oil water separator and left it over the vents because hot air blows up through there while the compressor's cooling, and it's kind of a nice double whammy to let those dry out over that. So I usually do that every time. So definitely buy one of these for 15 bucks because you do not want water getting into your gun. Also a good thing to do, and watch this, I'm going to block my vent and then I'll turn the compressor on. Watch the spigot because I bet you a little bit of moisture will come out there. See that? So I usually clear it out like that every time. And remember what I said about not starting it up under pressure. So if you do let it take a break where it gets too hot, vent that pressure and then start over again. So that fill to a little over 250 bar, because it'll cool down, took about 4 or 5 minutes. I should have set a timer, but I looked at the clock and it was about 4 or 5 minutes to do about 35, 40 bar or so. So anyway, that is it for today. Hopefully this was helpful to some of you guys, and yeah, definitely feel secure in buying these compressors off Orcair. They work well. The seller on on Amazon really backs up his product, and if you do spring for the $45 4-year warranty, you're absolutely covered no matter what happens. So really low cost of ownership, and highly recommend these compressors.